You're listening to a production of the National Media Archive. To learn more or volunteer, go to nationalmediaarchive.com.
Have you ever wondered how a sandwich chain could skyrocket to 5 locations only to nearly vanish within a decade? Today, we're diving into the fascinating story of Quiznos, a brand that once seemed unstoppable, yet now exists as a shadow of its former self. Now, you might be thinking, wasn't Quiznos everywhere in the 2000s? Absolutely. They were one of the fastest growing restaurant chains in the US, peaking in 2007. But by 2019, Quiznos had shrunk to less than 0 stores. That's a 5-fold decrease, a collapse that's hard to imagine unless you know the inside story. So what happened? Was it just bad luck, changing tastes, or something deeper? Let's peel back the layers and look at the real causes behind this restaurant roller coaster. Stay tuned, because this isn't just about sandwiches, it's about business models, competition, and the tough choices that can make or break a brand. All right, let's talk advertising. Who remembers the Sponge Monkeys? Those bizarre, bug-eyed creatures singing about Quiznos subs? Now, you might ask, did these wild ads help or hurt Quiznos? Some call it the best campaign ever, others the worst. The truth? The impact was more about memorability than sales. But let me tell you, Quiznos' real marketing ace was their Toasty campaign. They hammered home their unique selling point, the toasted sub. In branding, that's called a differentiator. It's the one thing that sets you apart. For Quiznos, it was their signature toasting process, something no competitor offered at scale, at least initially. So how did a quirky ad and a hot oven make Quiznos a household name but not guarantee its survival? There's a lesson here about the limits of creative marketing. Let's rewind to 1978. Picture 2 restaurant owners in Denver, Jimmy Lambatos and Todd Disner, running an Italian place called Footers. They dream up a new concept, an Italian-style deli with a twist. Instead of rushing in, they spend years perfecting recipes like a unique red wine vinegar dressing and a special baguette. This planning is what we call culinary innovation testing and refining until you stand out. In 1981, Quiznos opens its doors and instantly it's a hit. Why? The toasted sub. Now, toasting may seem simple, but back then, Quiznos was a true category creator, introducing a new way to enjoy a sandwich. Their early customers? Mostly business professionals hunting for a premium lunch experience. Not fine dining, not fast food, Quiznos carved a niche right in the middle. So, from day one, Quiznos was about more than food. It was about targeting a market segment and offering something truly different. Here's where things get interesting. By 1991, Quiznos had 18 Denver area locations, mostly franchised. Franchising, if you're new to the term, means independent owners pay to use your brand and products. In 1991, the original founders sold to Rick Shaden and his father, who were determined to grow fast. By 1993, there were 40 locations across several states. So why did franchising work so well, at least early on? It's called scalable growth. Franchisees invest their own capital and sweat equity, while the parent company collects fees and royalties. But here's the catch. If you expand too fast, can you still pick the best operators? We'll come back to that. For now, know this. Franchising fueled Quiznos' boom, but also planted the seeds for some epic problems. Let's fast forward to 1994. Quiznos goes public, raising over $4 million. What did they do with all that cash? You guessed it, open more stores faster than ever. They introduced area directors, essentially, people who bought rights to open and oversee multiple franchises in a region. Think of it like a pyramid, with local directors supporting franchisees. Quiznos also shrank store footprints to cut costs and made expansion easier. More locations meant more royalty and franchise fees, their primary revenue sources. But is more always better? When you're opening hundreds of stores a year, quality control both in food and management gets stretched thin. This is a classic growth trap, scaling up so quickly that foundational cracks start to appear. Here's a question. Do you think Quiznos made most of its money from selling sandwiches? If you answered yes, think again. Let me break it down. In 1,996, just 36% of revenue came from company-owned store sales. The rest? Royalties, franchise fees, area director fees, bookkeeping charges, and interest from franchisee financing. This is called a franchise revenue stack, a mix of recurring and one-time payments. It's a low-risk, high-margin approach, but it can make the parent company less invested in individual store success. Now, you might be thinking, if the parent makes money no matter what, what's their incentive to support franchisees? And that's exactly the conflict that would haunt Quiznos later. Understanding these revenue mechanics is key to seeing why Quiznos made the choices they did and why things started to unravel. Let's get into the heart of the crisis: Quiznos' relationship with its franchisees. At first, franchising is a win-win, but soon friction turns into lawsuits. Why? In 2000, Quiznos created American Food Distributors, a subsidiary that forced franchisees to buy all supplies from them, often at inflated prices. This is known as a captive supplier model. It helps the parent company's bottom line, but can squeeze franchisees' profits to the breaking point. Imagine being a small business owner, locked into buying overpriced tomatoes and bread, while watching your margins disappear. No wonder animosity grew, and some franchisees simply walked away. This breakdown in trust led to poorly run locations, a rash of closures, and a brand reputation that soured almost overnight. Now, consider this. When a company's in hyper-growth mode, how carefully do they vet new franchisees? The answer is not very. Quiznos' rapid expansion meant they often gave franchises to inexperienced operators. This is what we call operator dilution when quality slips because the bar for entry drops. Let me tell you a story. Imagine being a customer at a new Quiznos, only to get lousy service or a subpar sandwich. That's a recipe for lost business and negative word of mouth. As these weak locations failed, Quiznos scrambled to find replacements, further lowering standards. It became a vicious cycle, what business experts call a downward spiral. So, the very system that powered Quiznos' rise now fueled its decline, one underperforming store at a time. Let's zoom out. Was it all internal missteps? Not quite. The 2008 recession hit hard, slashing consumer spending on premium lunches. But perhaps the biggest blow came from Subway. In 2004, they started offering toasted subs, instantly erasing Quiznos' main differentiator. This is a textbook case of feature commoditization. When your unique edge becomes industry standard, you lose your competitive moat. Add in rising competition from chains like Potbelly and Jimmy John's, and suddenly, Quiznos wasn't special anymore. Now, you might ask, couldn't they have innovated again? Maybe, but by then, internal chaos and external pressures had set in. By 2006, Quiznos embarked on a leveraged buyout, taking on nearly $900 million in debt. That's what financial analysts call over-leveraging, borrowing so much that servicing the debt becomes a daily struggle. Debt restructuring and out-of-court settlements followed, but by 2014, Quiznos filed for bankruptcy protection. It's a classic debt trap, where compounding interest and shrinking revenues sap a company's vitality. In 2018, High Bluff Capital Partners acquired Quiznos, betting that brand awareness and nostalgia could fuel a turnaround. But turning around a company with this much baggage is no easy feat. Can a brand survive on name recognition alone? Or does it need fresh ideas, operational discipline, and strong franchisee relationships to rise again? Quiznos' journey shows how the wrong financial moves can haunt even the most promising brands for years. So, what can entrepreneurs and foodies learn from the Quiznos saga? First, innovation matters, but it can't be your only card. The toasted sub was a brilliant differentiator, but easy for competitors to copy. Second, a franchise model is powerful, but only if you treat partners fairly and uphold high standards. Alignment of interests is the term everyone must win together, or nobody wins for long. Third, rapid expansion is seductive but risky. Grow too fast, and you risk losing control over brand quality and customer experience. Finally, financial discipline is non-negotiable. Debt can fuel growth, but it can also strangle a business if mismanaged. Quiznos isn't gone yet, but their story is a cautionary tale for every business chasing meteoric growth in a crowded market. So, where does Quiznos stand now? With fewer than 1,000 locations, it's far from its glory days, but not gone entirely. High Bluff Capital is betting on brand nostalgia, digital marketing, and menu updates to revive Quiznos. The question is, will today's consumers give them another shot? Let me ask you directly, do you miss Quiznos? Would you go back if a new one opened nearby? Or has the world of fast casual dining simply moved on? The story's not over. If Quiznos can reconnect with their audience, innovate, and rebuild trust with franchisees, there just might be a second act. Thanks for listening. Share your Quiznos memories, thoughts, or theories for their future. I'd love to hear your take.